My wife was planning to divorce me and take everything I had, but she didn't know one thing. I was already ahead of her, and when she finally made her move, her entire plan collapsed. It started with something small. It always does. At first, I thought I was overthinking. We had been together for 6 years, married for 4. No drama, no chaos, no obvious problems. At least, that's what I believed. But then something changed, and I felt it before I could explain it. She started taking her phone everywhere. Not casually, obsessively. Kitchen, bathroom, even when she was just folding clothes. Before that, her phone would sit on the table for hours, unlocked, unbothered. So I made a joke, running some secret operation now. She laughed. Too fast, too light. Work stuff, emails. I nodded, but something about it didn't sit right. Then a few days later, she added a password. That stopped me. She had never used one before. Not once. When I asked her about it, she didn't even look up. Security, hackers. Hackers. That word stuck with me, because it didn't make sense. And that's when my gut started screaming. But I ignored it, because I didn't want to be that guy. The paranoid husband. The one who ruins everything over nothing. But it didn't stop there. It got worse. She started taking calls outside. Every time. Phone rings, she disappears. Bedroom, balcony, sometimes even outside the building. And every time I asked, just work, just a friend, always the same vague answer. Never details. And that's when I noticed something else. Something small, but it changed everything. She started placing her phone face down. Every single time. At first, I thought it meant nothing. Then one night, I reached across the table, and she moved it. Fast, too fast. Like she panicked. Like I almost saw something I wasn't supposed to see. And in that moment, everything shifted. I didn't have proof, but I had that feeling. That heavy, uncomfortable feeling in your chest. When something is wrong, and you know it, but you don't want to admit it. So I told myself, you're overthinking. But then something else changed. She started pulling away. Conversations that used to feel effortless now felt forced. I'd ask about our anniversary. She'd say, we'll see. I'd bring up future plans. She'd nod and change the subject. Like she was already somewhere else. Like she was already gone. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't distance. This was preparation. For something. I just didn't know what yet. Until one random Wednesday. She told me she was meeting a friend for coffee. Nothing unusual. She did that all the time. But something about the way she said it felt rehearsed. Too clean. Too controlled. And for some reason, I couldn't ignore it. So I did something I never thought I would do. I followed her. Not because I wanted to spy, but because my gut wouldn't shut up. And what I saw that day didn't just confirm my suspicions. It proved this was already planned. I told myself I was overreacting. I really did. But something inside me wouldn't let it go. So I followed her. Just to be sure. That's what I kept telling myself. Just to be sure. She walked into a small cafe across town. Nothing unusual. Until I saw her. She wasn't sitting. She wasn't smiling. She was outside. Pacing. Back and forth. Phone pressed to her ear. And the way she was talking. It didn't feel casual. It felt serious. Calculated. I stayed in my car. I didn't plan to listen. But then I heard something. Just a few words. And they were enough. It's almost ready. I froze. Almost ready. Ready for what? Then she said something else. And that's when my stomach dropped. Yeah, we'll start fresh soon. Start fresh. That wasn't work. That wasn't a casual conversation. That sounded like a plan. A real one. And suddenly, everything made sense. The phone. The distance. The secrecy. This wasn't random. This was preparation. For something big. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. So when she got home, I played along. How was your coffee? I kept my voice neutral. Calm. Like nothing happened. She didn't hesitate. Not even for a second. Oh, it was fine. She was just complaining about her boyfriend again. A full story. Clean. Smooth. Too smooth. And that's when it hit me. She had already prepared the lie. And I was just hearing the script. I nodded. Smiled. Pretended to believe it. But inside, everything was shifting. Because now I knew one thing for sure. She was hiding something. And it wasn't small. A few days later, she brought it up. Out of nowhere. We were in the kitchen. I was making a sandwich. And she said it casually. Too casually. Hey, we should probably organize our finances. I stopped. What do you mean? She shrugged. Like it was nothing. Passwords, accounts, documents, just in case. Just in case. That phrase hit differently now. Just in case what? I asked. Still calm, still careful. She didn't answer directly. She never did. I don't know emergencies, it's just smart. Smart. That word again. Everything sounded reasonable, logical, but something about it felt rehearsed. Like she had practiced saying it. Like she was waiting for the right moment. And suddenly, that cafe conversation came back to me. It's almost ready. Start fresh. And now this. Finances. Access. Passwords. It wasn't random. It was connected. I could feel it, but I still didn't have proof. So I played it safe. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I kept my tone neutral, supportive, like I wasn't suspicious. But inside, alarms were going off. Because we had never talked about this before. Not once. And now suddenly, it was important, urgent, necessary. No, something wasn't right. And I knew it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The call, the cafe, her words, the way she looked at me when she said it. It all felt too clean, too intentional. And then it hit me. What if this wasn't about being prepared? What if this was about control, access to everything, before something happened, before she made her move? And that's when I realized something else. If she was planning something, then I was already behind. And I couldn't afford that. Not anymore. So the next day, while she was at work, I did something I never thought I would do. I opened our joint account. And what I found there was the moment everything became real. I didn't want to believe it. I really didn't. But I needed to know. So I opened our joint account. Just to check. Just to calm myself down. That's what I told myself. But the second I looked at the transactions, something felt off. Nothing big. No huge withdrawals. No obvious red flags. Just small movements. Tiny amounts. Here and there. At first, it looked normal. Almost invisible. But the more I looked, the worse it got. Because none of it made sense. It wasn't groceries. It wasn't bills. It wasn't anything we usually spent money on. It was random. Scattered. Deliberate. And that's when it hit me. She was moving money. Slowly. Carefully. Like she didn't want me to notice. And the worst part, I almost didn't. If I hadn't checked that day, I probably never would have. And suddenly, that sentence came back to me. It's almost ready. This was the ready. And I was already late. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe I was overthinking again. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't random. This was preparation. And I was part of the plan. Just not in the way I thought. I wanted to confront her. Right there. Ask her directly. What are you doing? But something stopped me. Because if I was wrong, I'd destroy everything. And if I was right, I'd give her a warning. And I couldn't afford that. Not anymore. So instead, I called someone I trusted. An old college friend. He's a lawyer. I didn't tell him everything. Just enough. Enough to not sound crazy. Enough to not sound paranoid. But when I finished, he went quiet. Then he said something that changed everything. Look, I'm not saying something is definitely going on. Pause. But if you feel like you need to protect yourself, this is the time. That word hit hard. Protect. Not talk. Not fix. Protect. And suddenly, this didn't feel like a relationship problem anymore. It felt like a risk. A real one. He walked me through it. Simple steps. Legal. Clean. Quiet. Ways to secure everything. Before anything happened. Before she made her move. And I'll be honest. It felt wrong. Like I was betraying her. Like I was the one crossing a line. But then I thought about everything. The phone. The lies. The money. The plan. And something inside me shifted. Because this wasn't about trust anymore. That was already gone. This was about not getting destroyed. So that night, I sat down at my desk. Laptop open. Heart racing. And I started going through everything. Accounts. Savings. Investments. Property. Every single thing we had built together. And the more I looked, the heavier it felt. Because this wasn't just money. This was our life. Years of it. And now, I was preparing to protect it from her. That thought alone was enough to break something inside me. But I didn't stop. Because I couldn't. Not anymore. I made a list. What could be moved? What needed to stay? How to do it? Without her noticing. Without triggering anything. Because if she found out, everything would blow up. And I needed time. Just a little more time. And that's when I realized something else. I couldn't do this alone. So I picked up my phone and called the only person I knew would help me. No questions asked. My mom. I didn't explain everything. I couldn't. Not yet. I need your help. Silence. Then, of course, I took a breath. I might need you to hold something for me, just for a while. Another pause. Longer this time. Is everything okay? I hesitated, then lied. Yeah, just a precaution. She didn't push. She didn't ask. She just said, whatever you need. And in that moment, I knew things were about to change. Because once I started this, there was no going back. And I didn't even know yet how far she had already gone. Once I started, there was no going back. I kept telling myself it was just a precaution, just in case. But deep down, I knew exactly what I was doing. I was getting ready for war. And the worst part, she had no idea. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk, going through everything again. Every account, every document, every detail. Because if I missed something, it could cost me everything. And I couldn't let that happen. Not after everything I had seen. Not after everything I knew. So I started moving things. Slowly, carefully, just like she did. But better, cleaner, smarter. First, the savings. Then the investments. Then the accounts she didn't even think about. One by one, I moved everything out of reach. Everything she thought she had access to was already gone. And the whole time, she didn't notice. Not once. She came home that night, kissed me, asked if I wanted to watch a movie. Like nothing had changed. Like everything was normal. And I played along. I smiled, sat next to her, watched the screen. But I didn't see a single thing. Because all I could think about was this. She was planning to destroy me. And she had no idea. I had already moved everything. That thought should have made me feel better, safer, in control. But it didn't. It felt empty. Because this wasn't just strategy. This was my marriage. And it was already over. The next few days were the strangest of my life. I kept waiting for something, for her to slip, for her to say something, for her to realize. But she didn't. If anything, she became nicer, warmer, more attentive. And that made it worse. Because now it felt like she was pretending. Like she was playing a role, waiting for the right moment. And I was just sitting there, watching it happen, counting down. And then something strange happened. She stopped talking about money. Completely. Like the topic never existed. Like she had never brought it up. At first I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I pushed too hard. Maybe she dropped it. But the more I thought about it, the less it made sense. Because she didn't drop things like that. Not important things. Not things she cared about. So why now? Why suddenly, silence? And then it hit me. She didn't need to ask anymore. She thought she already had what she needed. And that realization changed everything. Because now I understood the timeline. She wasn't planning. She was finishing. And I was running out of time. So I checked everything again. Every transfer, every document, every detail. Making sure there were no mistakes, no gaps, no way for her to get anything. And when I was done, everything was locked, untouchable, legally secure. There was nothing she could do, nothing she could claim, nothing she could take. And for the first time in days, I felt something, relief. But it didn't last, because I knew what was coming next. She was going to make her move. And when she did, there would be no turning back. 2 weeks passed. Nothing happened. No fights, no arguments, no signs. Just normal life. Too normal. And that's what made it terrifying. Because I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. Until one night, she sat me down, turned off the TV, and said 5 words. That confirmed everything. I think we should divorce. And just like that, the game was over. Or at least, that's what she thought. I think we should divorce. She said it calmly. Too calmly. Like she was talking about the weather. Like this wasn't the end of our marriage. Like it was already decided. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't emotional. This was planned. Every word, every move, every step. I didn't react. Not the way she expected. I didn't argue. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't ask her to stay. I just looked at her and said, if that's what you want, we'll figure it out. For a second, she looked confused. Like she was waiting for something else. A fight. A reaction. Anything. But I gave her nothing. Because I already knew what she was about to do next. And I wasn't going to stop her. Not yet. She started talking. About needing space. About finding herself. About losing her identity. All the usual lines. All the standard excuses. None of them real. And then, she said something different. Something that didn't sound emotional. It sounded calculated. I've made a lot of sacrifices for you. That word hit differently. Sacrifices. And I deserve more. There it was. Not sadness. Not regret. Expectation. Like this wasn't just a divorce. This was a transaction. And suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't about leaving. This was about taking everything, and justifying it. I didn't argue, but inside, something went cold, because now I saw it clearly. This wasn't the woman I married. This was someone else, someone who had already decided what I was worth and what she was owed. I let her finish, let her say everything she had prepared, because I needed one more thing, proof, and then she gave it to me, without even realizing. A friend has been helping me through this. A friend. I stayed quiet, let her keep talking, but my mind was already moving, because that didn't sound casual. That sounded like influence, like someone had been guiding her, telling her what to say, what to ask for, how to do it. And the more she talked, the clearer it became. This wasn't her idea alone. This was a plan, built with someone else. I didn't ask who, not yet, because I knew better. If I pushed, she'd shut down, and I needed her comfortable, confident, thinking she was in control. So I nodded, stayed calm, played along, and said, "Okay, let's handle it properly." That was exactly what she wanted to hear, because 2 days later, the papers arrived, and that's when it got ugly, really ugly. She wasn't just asking for a divorce. She was asking for everything. Half the house, my savings, my accounts, the car, even spousal support, despite earning almost as much as me. And the way it was written, it wasn't emotional. It was precise, detailed, aggressive, like someone had coached her, line by line. And that's when I knew for sure. She wasn't doing this alone. Someone was helping her, someone who knew exactly how to take everything from me. And that's when I made a decision. I needed to find out who, because this wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was about understanding the plan and destroying it before it destroyed me. So I started digging, quietly, carefully, and what I found next didn't just explain everything. It made it worse. I needed a name. That friend she mentioned wasn't just a friend. I could feel it. So I started looking. Not directly, not obviously, carefully. I checked her social media. Nothing at first. Then I noticed a pattern. One name kept showing up. Jake. Liking her posts, commenting. Nothing suspicious on the surface, but just enough to stand out. So I clicked his profile, and that's when things started to connect. He had a photo at the same cafe, the same day I followed her. My stomach dropped. That wasn't a coincidence. That was him. And suddenly, everything made sense. But I needed more. So I reached out to a mutual friend, kept it casual, asked if anything seemed off lately. At first, she avoided the question, then ended the call. Too fast, too defensive. And that told me everything. But then, she called me back. Her voice was different this time. Lower, careful, like she didn't want anyone to hear. "There's someone," she said. Pause. "They've been spending a lot of time together." My chest tightened. "And he's been helping her with the divorce." There it was. Not a guess. Not a feeling. A fact. And suddenly, the entire picture locked into place. The calls, the money, the plan. It wasn't just her. It was both of them, working together, planning everything, step by step. And I was the target. That night, I drove to her building. I didn't knock, didn't call. I just waited. And after a few hours, I saw them, walking out together, close, comfortable, like this wasn't new, like this had been going on for a while. They got into his car and drove off. And in that moment, something inside me went completely quiet. No anger, no shock, just clarity. Because now I knew. This wasn't just betrayal. This was calculated. And I had already beaten it. The mediation was scheduled a few days later. She walked in confident, her lawyer ready, papers stacked, like they were about to win, like everything was already decided. They started listing demands. Half the house, my savings, my assets, everything, and more. I sat there, silent, let them finish, let them believe it. And then, it was our turn. My lawyer slid the documents across the table. Calm, precise. "Before we proceed, you should review these." Her lawyer picked them up, started reading, and within seconds, his expression changed. Completely. "What is this?" he asked. My lawyer didn't hesitate. "These documents show that all major assets were transferred into a legal trust, weeks before the divorce was filed." Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable. Her lawyer looked at her, confused. "You didn't mention this." She grabbed the papers, started flipping through them, faster and faster. Her face changed. Shock, then panic, then rage. "This isn't real," she said. But it was. Every signature, every date, every detail. Locked. Final. Untouchable. She looked at me, eyes wide. You knew. Not a question. A realization. You knew I was going to file. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because she already understood. Her entire plan was gone. There was nothing left to take. Nothing left to control. Nothing left to win. And for the first time, she wasn't in control anymore. The meeting ended fast. There was nothing to argue. Nothing to fight. They had no case. No leverage. Nothing. And when we walked out, she stopped me in the hallway. This isn't over. Her voice shaking now. Different. Desperate. I looked at her. Calm. Cold. And said the only thing that mattered. I already lost you. Pause. And that's the only thing I regret. After that, everything fell apart for her. The messages. The lies. The stories she told people. They didn't hold up. Not for long. Because the truth came out. It always does. And the person who helped her, Jake, he disappeared. The moment there was nothing left to gain. Just like that. Gone. And in the end, she didn't walk away with everything. She walked away with nothing. And me. I got something I didn't even realize I lost. Peace. Because some people don't destroy your life all at once. They plan it. Slowly. Carefully. And sometimes, the only way to survive